Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to share with you a story about King Solomon. King Solomon was known near and far as Solomon the Wise. So when it came time for him to build the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, he wanted to make sure to find the perfect spot. Some said, King Solomon, you should build it in the wealthy part of town. That way the upper echelons of the Jewish community will support your great project. And others said, King Solomon, you should build the temple in the poorest part of town so that we can support the Jews who are in the most need. Others said that the Holy Temple should be built in the center of town so that it could be accessible to all. And there were yet others who argued that the Holy Temple should be built on the outskirts of town so as not to disturb any of the business and happenings that go on a day-to-day basis in the capital. Solomon listened patiently to each and every one of these suggestions, and in the end, he decided that he didn't know where the perfect spot was, so he would hold off. Meanwhile, people went about their lives in Jerusalem. And on top, so in Jerusalem, there was this great hill, on top of which two brothers lived. It was a hill on which they farmed. Their father had left them this hill, and they shared it. One of the brothers was single, and the other brother was married with a large family, and they each farmed the wheat together. Each night, the brothers would go to their homes on opposite ends of the hill, and they would lie in bed awake, each one sort of kept up with their own thoughts. The married man thought to himself, my brother is alone. Surely he is sad and lonely, and when he goes home at night, the least that I could do is give him a little bit extra grain so that, just to make up for his troubles. And the single brother laid in bed at night thinking, my brother, he has such a large family to feed. He has so much responsibility weighing on his shoulders. Surely, there's something I could do. I could give him some of the grain, some of the wheat. I could put it into his pile, and then that way that could lessen his burden. So each night after midnight, the two brothers would each take what they could from their pile of wheat, carry it across the field, and put it into their brother's pile. Now this shockingly went on for years, and neither brother was any wiser to what was happening until one clear, starry night, the brothers literally bumped into each other as they were carrying their wheat. They dropped everything that they had in their hands, instantly knowing what had been going on for years. They embraced one another, and they wept. They realized at that moment the true meaning of a brotherly love that is holy. When King Solomon heard of this magnificent display of peace and love, he chose to build the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple, on that very site. Holiness is a concept that is simple and yet also complex. The Hebrew word for holiness is kadosh, which we often translate as sanctification. So, for example, in any given blessing, we say the words Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, etc., etc. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who has kidshanu, who has sanctified us or made us holy through your commandments, commanding us to fill in the blank. We say kiddush over the wine, thus sanctifying the cup of wine for a specific occasion. And in our worship service, we talk about the holiness of the day and the holiness of God. So it's easy for us to come up with examples of holiness within our religion, but what exactly is holiness? The Torah portion from which we just read is all about a holiness codes for the Israelites as they are wandering in the desert. The code talks about civil and religious laws. and about a number of miscellaneous laws, which include having reverence for one's father and mother, laws prohibiting idolatry, laws about burnt offerings, laws about kashrut, laws about sexual propriety, agricultural laws, laws about morality. For instance, we find these verses within this portion. You shall not defraud your fellow. You shall not commit robbery. You shall not insult the deaf, nor should you put a stumbling block before the blind. You shall fear your God. So none of these laws are particularly revolutionary for the Israelites at this point in time. Remember, they've been traveling in the wilderness for some time now. They've already been at Mount Sinai. They've received the Ten Commandments. Possibly they've received the entire God's entire instruction. So what can we learn? What can we take away from this holiness code that appears in the middle of the book of Leviticus? I think that we should pay attention to the beginning of the code, which reads as follows. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the whole Israelite community and say to them, You shall be holy, for I, Adonai, am holy. God is offering the Israelites a preemptive answer for their inevitable question of why do we have to follow all of these laws? Why do we need a holiness code? The answer is because your God is holy, so you as a community must be holy, and you must act in holy ways. This message carries through to us and specifically to our temple community today. It's really simple. Our God is holy, and so we must be holy. It has really been an honor for me this year to bear witness to the holiness of your community. Together throughout the year, I have joined you and I have seen you reach out to one another in friendship and in support. I've seen you make sure that your Jewish rituals and practices are important components of your individual lives and as the life of your community. I've seen you reach out to your Christian neighbors, inviting them to study with you, and I've seen you engage in serious study. I've also had the privilege of celebrating many wonderful holidays with you, and all of this is holy. As you move on into this next chapter of your temple's history, as you gain a full-time rabbi, hopefully gain more members, certainly grow in spirit, I urge you to develop your own holiness code. It should be a laundry list of values and goals. It should be a list of do's and don'ts that ensure that you are always conducting yourselves in holy ways, conducting yourselves as God might conduct God's self. It should be a code of holiness that you can cling to as a community. Your holiness code should outline how you will personally ensure that this will continue to be a holy community. Just as the brothers in the field created a holy place amongst themselves, a place that was turned into the holy temple in Jerusalem, the holiest place in all of the world, so too do you have the opportunity to continue to create a holy space right here, between you, amongst you, and these walls in your temple. Kain Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will.